What is up? This is Alex from Double Move Sports back with another free agency grades video. Today I'm getting into the AFC South. I've already broken down a couple other divisions on the channel. Be sure to check those out if you haven't done so already. Also hit that like and subscribe button. Really helps us out here at Double Move Sports. But without further delay, let's go ahead and jump into this AFC South, starting out with the Indianapolis Colts. I'll throw their free agent signings on the screen here, and I'm going to give the Colts a C+ for free agency. And this is not as much about what the Colts did do, but more about what they didn't do. I like the guys they brought back, especially, TY Hilton, Xavier Rhodes, two veterans that are really going to help them on both sides of the ball. But they didn't actively make the roster better after acquiring Carson Wentz. And to me, the Colts are a team with significant cap space, with a very, very talented roster. And this is a year where a lot of these impact players signed 1 to 2 year deals, many of them at a discount, just because they want to cash in on free agency when the salary cap goes up next season. And for the Colts, I feel like they didn't take advantage of that with money sitting in their pocket. They could have gotten some low-risk deals for some of these impact players, and they just failed to do so. So to me, wide receiver, pass rush, and offensive tackle are still positions of need for the Colts as they head into the draft. I know they signed Sam Tevy, offensive tackle, on a 1 year, $2.5 million deal. But, just because you're a starting tackle in the NFL doesn't mean you did it very well. And I just don't think that he is that impact tackle that can replace Anthony Costanzo on this offense. So the Colts, none of these signings are egregious. None of them are bad, very low risk, short deals, but they just didn't really make any splashes. And they're a team that I think is ready to take that next step, which they showed when they acquired Carson Wentz. So that's why they get the C+. But let's go ahead and move on to the Jacksonville Jaguars. I will throw their signings on the screen. Well, at least most of them, the ones that I think are the highest impact, because the Jaguars pulled out the wallet for this free agency period. I don't mind some of the depth backup signings they made, but I think they overpaid for some of these guys, which is why they get a B here. Like CJ Beathard, Carlos Hyde, some short deals for low money. I don't mind that one bit. They signed Philip Dorsett to a 1 year, $1 million deal. Like, that stuff doesn't matter. But there's a lot of guys they overpaid. Like, I look at the deals for Roy Robertson Harris, 3 year, $23.5 million. Previously with the Chicago Bears. I even look at Rayshon Jenkins from the Chargers, 4 year, $35 million for a safety. And that's just a lot of money for guys of their caliber. Jamal Agnew as well. I know he's a great special teamer, but 3 years, $21 million. That is a pretty big budget, especially in a year where we saw a lot of studs come in on deals that were smaller than expected. So I do think they overpaid for some of these guys. But regardless, I think the talent is going to be there. This team got better with some of these signings. No, not all of them were splash names like we saw with the Shaq Griffin 3 year, $44.5 million deal. But the talent on this team is better. The defense finally got some pieces that can step in and hopefully give them a lift. And on offense, you got Trevor Lawrence likely to be coming in at quarterback. I really do like the signing of Marvin Jones, 2 year, $14.5 million deal. That's a good value as far as the money goes. And I think it's also just a bargain for a veteran receiver that can help Lawrence, help Chark and Chenault, some of those young receivers in that offense. So I like that move. Cam Robinson, hit or miss with his play. They gave him the franchise tag, but they're bringing in those offensive linemen to help protect Lawrence. So the Jaguars get a B. There's some things that I like, some things that I don't like. I think they overpaid a little bit, but their team did get better. Now let's go ahead and move on to the Houston Texans. Wow, I will throw their signings on the screen here. I give them a D+. And honestly, I don't know what is happening with Houston. It seems like it just keeps getting worse and worse. And to me, this list I'm showing here isn't even the full list of veterans that they brought in on these small, short contracts. And it's just a ton of middle-of-the-road signings that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And my best guess is that due to the lack of draft capital that they have, because they've given it all away, instead of bringing in a class of rookies to camp where they can evaluate some of these guys, figure out who's going to be an impact player and who's not, instead of doing that with rookies, they're just doing it with veterans. You see a lot of these deals, 1 year, $3 million, 1 year, $1.5 million. A lot of these contracts they could move on from as early as this season. Just because they signed some of these guys doesn't necessarily mean they're going to play a snap for Houston. So the only way I can wrap my head around this is if they're just bringing in a ton of veteran talent to get the rights to these guys, evaluate them, and then if they're not gonna impact the team, cut them before the season starts. So I guess that's what they're doing here. They're taking a lot of flyers on these veterans. But man, like Phillip Lindsay and Mark Ingram, when you already have David Johnson in that backfield, just doesn't make a ton of sense. Chris Conley and Andre Roberts, like these are deep, deep receivers. I don't know what the game plan is for these guys, but it's baffling for, the Houston Texans. The only reason that I didn't grade them out worse here is because a lot of these deals are short deals. They're low dollar amounts. None of these things are necessarily going to crush or cripple Houston long term, but I just don't know that the team got a lot better. And, volume isn't always great. I'll take value over volume with the free agency guys all day long. So Texans come in at a D+. Last but not least, we'll move on to the Titans, who get a B+ from me. I'll throw their signings on the screen here. I actually don't mind what they did. They were very conservative in a lot of ways, but they also played to their strengths. Offensive weapons are a concern for this team after the departures of Corey Davis and Jonnu Smith. So they signed some cheaper replacements in guys like Josh Reynolds at wide receiver, Anthony Ferkser at tight end, guys that have shown some flashes in the past, but I do think can step in and be a serviceable replacement for the guys that they lost. And they're also setting themselves up to potentially add a guy in the draft. I wouldn't be surprised to see them go wide receiver in round 1. So for that reason, I like those guys as just veteran pieces that can step into the offense. On defense, I think they significantly improved as well, especially in the pass rush. Obviously, bringing in Bud Dupree on that big 5-year, $85 million deal is huge for Tennessee. We'll see how Bud Dupree performs coming off of that ACL injury, but if things go to plan, he's going to be a cornerstone piece for that defense and a cornerstone pass rusher, which is fantastic and something this Tennessee defense desperately needs. They added additional help on the front with Denico Autry and Jayon Brown as well. So, the Titans, they spent up for the one big Bud Dupree deal, and then they just kind of plugged some of those gaps with other solid veterans in positions of need. With the Texans, it's like, why are they bringing in more veteran running backs when you have David Johnson? Why are they bringing in all these veteran receivers? With the Titans, I think it makes sense because they did lose some guys, and they can kind of fill the gaps with these veterans. So I like what they did. That's why they get a B+. And really quickly, let's go ahead and recap all of the grades for the AFC South. Colts get a C+, Jaguars get a B, Texans get a D+, and the Titans get a B+. It's going to be really interesting to see what these teams do in the NFL draft and how they complement some of the signings here. But I want to see in the comments down below what you think of these signings, what you think of these grades, and let me know which divisions you'd like me to break down next. Still have a few to go. Most of the NFC haven't gotten to yet. I plan on getting to those in the next couple weeks. But again, this is Alex from Double Move Sports, and we'll see you next time.